Hey everybody, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Ready to Die Fighting. I'm Chris, and I want to share another book with you that I've been not quite reading, not cover to cover sense, but just kind of referencing, I guess maybe, is more accurate. It is called Jiu-Jitsu University by Saulo Ribeiro. I'm not 100% sure. I don't speak Portuguese. With Kevin Howell. Let's take a look at the back. Saulo Ribeiro is a 6-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion and 2-time ADCC submission wrestling world champion. He's world renowned for his functional jiu-jitsu knowledge and flawless technique. In Jiu-Jitsu University, Ribeiro shares with the public for the first time his revolutionary system of grappling, mapping out more than 200 techniques that carry you from white to black belt, illuminating common jiu-jitsu errors, and then illustrating practical remedies. This book is a must for all who train jiu-jitsu. Even the more basic techniques will come alive as Ribeiro sheds new light on theories and strategies previously thought to be antiquated. Blah, 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 blah. He's from the beautiful Brazil, not one to live within categories. His achievements go far beyond jiu-jitsu. He's a lawyer and a judge. He is now head instructor at the world-famous University of Jiu-Jitsu based out of San Diego, California. And he likes music and outdoor lifestyle. His family and friends. How wonderful. And then Kevin Howell is... he's a brown belt in judo and a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And I guess he helped him write this. So that's what this book is about, basically. Like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my content, and let's dive in. So I just want to preface this with, I love jiu-jitsu. I love talking about it. I think it is a fantastic martial arts, probably one of the most practical martial arts, if not the most practical martial art. If I was going to pick one martial art for people to study and to get really good at, for self-defense purposes, it would probably be jiu-jitsu. But it is also very complicated. And I don't believe that you can learn jiu-jitsu from a book. I don't. It is very complicated, and so much of it is body mechanics. You really need to get in a gym and put your hands around somebody's neck and choke them to learn these techniques. And also have them choking you. But I think this is a wonderful book as a supplement to your training, or if you're just beginning and trying to learn some of the terminology and trying to just understand some stuff, what's going on, like in classes. And the reason why I like this book in particular is it's pretty thick. First off, so it does cover a lot. We're plus 368 pages here. It's got a lot of pictures showing these different techniques. But so far what I've read is not the technique so much that has impressed me. I like the way he has it organized as well. I'm jumping around a little bit, but he has it organized kind of like by belt on what he thinks you should focus on. And I did like that. And so in the beginning, he talks about survival. Like that's the purpose of, as a white belt, you're really just focusing on survival. And I would say that that is accurate. I'm still a white belt, but I've been doing this for a couple of years. Definitely gotten better. And when I first started, yes, all I was doing was trying to just survive and not die. And I didn't think I was going to really die, but just become so exhausted. Like it was overwhelming. Didn't really know what's going on. It's like people are just throwing me around and choking me and pinning me down. And it's just like, what is happening? And it really just felt like I have no idea what's happening. I just want to survive. It just imagine like a grizzly bear attacking you. There's no technique to use or anything. You just kind of curl up into a ball and just please don't let me die. And that's what being a white belt beginner feels like, which doesn't sound fun when I say it that way, but it's actually very fun. And then it moves on to, and just visually I like it because he has white at the top here as you're in the white belt session. And then as a blue belt, he switches the focus like, okay, you've learned how to survive. Now, learn how to actually escape and focusing on escaping. And then he goes on to purple belt. And at purple belt, I think it's the guard, learning how to have a strong guard and explain what the purpose of the guard is. And just, I like the ideology behind it. You know, his thoughts on these different stages of learning this martial art. And it goes on to brown belt. Now, realistically, I would say it's very accurate as a white belt. You're really just focusing on surviving. And at some point, it starts to transition and you start to learn some techniques and some escapes and all that. But for a long time, it really is just survival. I'm not yet a blue belt. So I can't say anything higher than that, how accurate that is, but that does make sense to me. At the blue belt level, you probably want to get really good at escaping, because a blue belt, while you're better than a white belt, you're still very much a beginner. And it's a fairly, comparatively speaking, low-level position still. And against a purple belt or a brown belt or a black belt or even some good white belts, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble. And you need to know how to escape. I really can't speak to the other levels at all, but I would imagine that there's more to purple belt than guard. And brown belt is also focusing on guard passing, you know, the other side of the guard. And then black belt, he focuses on the actual submissions. So it's interesting the way he divides it, and I do appreciate that. But going back to the white belt, and this is where I really want to focus, because this is where I spend most of my time reading. And I think for people who aren't training in jiu-jitsu or just beginning, I think this is really useful, because he talks about the importance of not just how to survive in various positions, but just the idea of just explaining the concept that you can get stuck in a position. Say in this case, he's talking about back survival. So if someone's on your back, there's certain things that you can do that will make it much harder for someone to harm you if they're on your back. And there's certain things that you can do that will make it very easy for someone to harm you if they're on your back. And it's the same in every position. If you don't know, if you don't recognize the position that you're in, and if you don't know, at the very least, if you don't know the things that you're not supposed to do, and you do them, you basically give someone a submission. And I mean, that happened just the other day. Not to me. I was rolling with someone who seemed pretty new, and I can't remember what he did exactly. I think I had him in like side control, and I think he turned his back towards me, and I ended up taking his back, which is, you know, side control is a good position, but the back is even better. And I don't remember but he basically gave me the submission. It was incredibly easy to choke him because he didn't know what to do with his hands. He didn't know what to do with his body. He didn't understand the danger he was in and how to like minimize the risk. And this book does, I think, a good job of just making you aware of the different positions and what you need to do to just kind of survive in that position. Not that you're going to get a submission, not that you're necessarily going to escape, but just how to not die, how not to get, what's not the wrong thing to do, and just give you some things to think about and to recognize as they're happening. And I like how it does that. And it gives you, so we've got like some common misconceptions. So a lot of things that people do that are wrong, that are very common. And then here we have surviving all fours back position. So if instead of the person sitting on your back like this, if you're on all fours, you know, we call this turtle, you know, how you can survive that. And then some drills you can do while you're by yourself. some things you can think about and practice and consider. This isn't so much a drill, but he's showing, this is the position you want to get in to try to protect yourself as much as possible, and why and how this helps you if you are in this type of position, which isn't a great place to be. It's not the worst in the world. It's not great, but you can make it horrible position to be in by doing the wrong thing, and you can make it not so bad, or even maybe to your advantage. Maybe not advantage, but you can get into a good position if you do the right things. And I think this book just does a good job of that. And he does this for basically all of the, main positions in Jiu-Jitsu. So here's surviving the mount. And this is probably the worst position you can be in as far as Jiu-Jitsu is concerned, and as far as self-defense and MMA and all that. Probably back or top mount. Yeah, it's probably the worst. And so how to just survive this. Some solo drills, things like just figuring out body mechanics that you can actually do by yourself. Learning how to recognize, hey, I'm in this position. This is a bad position. Here's some things that I can do with my body to try to minimize my risk. And you've got these little call-outs to give some details, that you might miss, some common mistakes that people make. So he talks about here how if you turn your head this way, you're basically turning your head into the choke. Now, this is for gi, I should point out. I train in 10th Planet, which is no gi, so this choke doesn't really apply without a collar. But still, just the idea is if you are doing a gi, or if you've got a jacket on or something like that, if you turn your head this way, you're basically giving them the choke and making the choke easier for them to do. If you turn it the other way, it's going to be better. You're turning your neck away from that pressure that way. So just things like that he goes over. We have different mount, different mistakes you can make there, surviving side control, surviving kesagatame, just learning what these positions are called and recognize them. That really does help. I remember when I first started, people would get me in positions, and there is definitely a ranking to positions. Some positions are really good, some are not that bad, some are this is worst case scenario. And even if you're in the worst position possible, you're always trying to work for a better position. And even if you're in a good position, you might still work for a better than good position. So sometimes you might not even know where you are if you don't know where you are in the tiers. So you might be in, say, one position, maybe that's in the middle, and perhaps you think that you're in a bad spot and you want to get out of it. And so you maybe wiggle around and do something, but you might, if you don't know what you're doing, you might wiggle around and get yourself into a position that's worse. And the person who knows what they're doing, they're going to allow it. They're not going to stop you. It's oh, I had you in side control, which sucks, but getting your back or getting in mount is worse than side control. If you move around in such a way that I can now get in mount, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. That works in my advantage. And you might think for a second, it's oh, yes, I got out of side control. This is better. And then you quickly realize you didn't. You're worse off. Stuff like that you don't know until you start reading. I actually don't know if he talks about the ranking of different positions. But if you know what they're called and you've got some terminology and stuff, you can maybe start figuring it out, and you can start Googling and things like that. So I do like this book for that. And he talks about just in the beginning when you're even first starting, what are the different belt rankings? What do they mean? What are they? What you should be focusing on then? What is Jiu-Jitsu exactly? He talks about learning outside of the academy. It's just very, very short little blurbs, but it was all really interesting. And this is the kind of stuff that basically sold me on the book. And so how I use it is not so much, I typically don't read it as a novel or anything, but if I find Oh, yeah. So a little while ago, a guy got me in a body lock. And let me see. And I thought I did find it in here. He got me in a body lock, and I couldn't get out of it. He was not able to submit me, actually. So that was good. Is there an index? No, there's not. Well, then maybe find something else. If I can't find that quick enough. I thought I did find it in here. But maybe I was looking up something else. But anyways, I couldn't get out of it. So in class, something happens. I get stuck. I don't really know what to do. So afterwards, you kind of replay what happened in your mind, like the things that you're working on and like what I could do better off. And sometimes I can kind of just think on my own, like, oh yeah, I should have done this one thing. But then other times, like, you know what? I've never actually been in a body lock before. I actually don't know how to get out of it. Let me look in this book. And so I will go back in here. And, oh, actually, yeah, there it is. And I was like, I know I was looking at this in here. Page 56. It was under survival, not escapes. What did I say? 56? And then I can go back and like the next day or that night and just kind of look at it. It's like, this is what happened. This is what I should have done. And I like that. I find it helpful. So I do like this book. It was about $30, I think. Where's the price? Yeah, there we go. Actually, $39.95. $40 book. I would say it's worth it as a supplement, or if you are interested in jiu-jitsu and want to get a better understanding of what it's about before you take an actual class, or maybe you're not able to take a class. I think this does a really good job of explaining some of the concepts and mentalities, and there are some solo drills that you can do. I definitely recommend you want to have an actual instructor, actual people that you can work with and train with. I do not believe that you can get good at really any martial art, but certainly not something like jiu-jitsu by yourself without an instructor. But this can get you started, and it's a good supplement, I think. So that's it. That's all I have to say about this. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. And I will see you in the next video. Any other books I find that I'm enjoying, I will continue sharing them, whether you like it or not.